There is a narrative that most modern men fall for. They tend to believe that women are gonna come into their lives once they are financially successful. As they say, focus on the money and the women are gonna come. Is that true? If I gave you $1 million right now, in what ways would you use that money tomorrow to have the ideal love life you want? Tell me what you would do. To be clear, even in this scenario, you're not allowed to directly pay women to be with you. That doesn't count. So how would that all work out? Let's play it through. You would quickly fall for a hedonistic trap, blowing a disproportionate amount of money on girls who genuinely do not care about you. You would indirectly pay them. Fancy dates, popping bottles, expensive trips. And by the way, there are guys blowing tons of money on women and they don't even bother to sleep with them. I saw chats from girls getting offered thousands of dollars and first-class flights. Meanwhile, they were hooking up with other guys who had absolutely nothing going for them. And even if you end up getting laid once or twice, it should bother you that there are guys who have access to those women for free. Also, casual hookups are fun in the short run, but in the long run, genuine relationships still prove to add the most peace and happiness to our lives. There's no virtue in getting laid without being able to keep the people around you without your financial assets. How about that thing called intriguing personality? Back to our example. One thing you do have gained with $1 million is access. Access to more women in different environments. So you attend fancy events and parties, plenty of women there. And what's next? You think you're gonna stand there having your net worth written on your forehead and women start falling for you? Probably not gonna happen. Also, you have to understand that there are guys out there who have more money than you and have some social skills to have a compelling conversation with the women they speak to. What makes you think you can afford to rely on something like money that in many areas has become a commodity? If a girl actually wants money from a guy, she could simply find herself in the fanciest places and start hitting on the guys there. And some women do that, but most don't, so it's gotta be way more than money that's attractive. Whatever you bring to the table is a chance for women to connect with and like. It's supply and demand. If money is all you have to offer, then that's all the consumer can take from you. Think about it. If having money was a quick fix to get dates and women, how is it that many very rich men are lonely, pay for escorts, never go on dates, or come across as needy and too nice when going out on an actual date? The evolution of men and women. Once and for all, where does the idea of women's preference for resourceful men as providers come from? There are indeed reasons for these dynamics. According to the evolved preference theory, men primarily seek youth, fertility, and health in women. That's why men are mostly drawn towards younger women with full hair, clean skin, and a good waist-to-hip ratio. And women, according to this theory, are physically weaker and less flexible because of pregnancy and raising kids. Thus, women depend on men to provide and nowadays choose resources over looks for men. But what's the problem here? This theory conflicts with the actual development of the human being. The modern Homo sapiens developed close to 200,000 years ago. And back in the day, we lived the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. Back then, men were out hunting, so it's easy to assume men were in charge of the food and thus were more powerful than women. That's not the case though. Women had most of the leverage because they would gather vegetables, cereals, fruits, the reliable stuff. Meanwhile, hunting wasn't as fruitful as we like to think. Because it's difficult to chase down wild animals. Some got wounded but just ran away. Men frequently came back from hunting without any success. Thus, they relied on their women to get some of the food they collected. In a sense, women took more of a provider role than men. Also, rich and poor didn't really exist because everything was shared in the group anyway. One factor that possibly made some men more attractive than others was their physical strength and their endurance, because those had a slightly better chance of a successful hunt. The exciting thing is the fact that traits that made men successful hunters are still considered as attractive today, especially for hookups. Tall, wide shoulders, a lean physique. Anyway, women did not depend on men, so it doesn't seem like there should be a female preference for men providing resources. Looks could have been just as relevant of a selection criterion. Societies changed and grew a lot when agriculture came into play about 12,000 years ago. Instead of primal groups, humans transitioned towards families owning land. The usage of farming machinery or herding animals required physical strength, so the power indeed transitioned towards men at this point. Women were in charge of cooking, weaving, and childcare. Thus, they valued men as the providers because they were dependent now. Meanwhile, as society became even more complex, rich men went up the hierarchy by owning land or becoming bureaucrats. Women could choose between great looks with basic resources or rich and not so physically appealing. Eventually, women regained a strong position in terms of gender equality and nowadays don't depend on men anymore. And the point where all these theories clearly reach their limits is the fact that modern independent women who wouldn't need the rich, distinguished men still do not seem to switch towards looks over resources. Psychology professor David Ludden makes the conclusion that it's a difference looking at what mating partner we want as opposed to the one we end up with. Also, living standards are much higher with a partner who does well. And lastly, it does make sense to look at what we have to offer and then based on that make a reasonable selection. That being said, you do need more than money and resources to get ahead with attracting women, depending on what it is that you want to attract. Maybe focusing on getting rich and yourself is just a more comfortable approach of not having to deal with improving your social skills, your flirting, and your energy towards women right now. Guess what? You don't have to become an Elon Musk Cristiano Ronaldo hybrid before finally putting yourself out there. You should strive to become the most successful person you can be, making lots of money, but don't you make the mistake of relying on that as a shortcut to women. It's not. Once money becomes the tool used by the main character, which is you, then there is some sort of attraction to it. Let's leave the whole evolution of men and women behind and look at the individual. Money isn't the main overarching concept driving attraction. Other traits trigger way more attraction. Imagine two guys in their early mid-30s, same looks. They both have an equally above average net worth of $2 million. One of them won the lottery, the other one built a successful startup. I argue most women would rate the one who built the business higher when it comes to social value. Because the lottery winner never had the chance to grow into the personality who attracts and creates resources. The business guy probably got there through hard work, intelligence, perseverance, and skills in interpersonal relationships. Of course, some luck also plays a role in business, such as timing, but it's not the main thing. What do studies say on all that? Dr. Peter Jonathan from the University of Western Sydney conducted a bunch of studies on mating preferences regarding different sources of income and wealth. The studies found that the source of income is less important to women when it comes to casual hookups as opposed to romantic relationships. Yet, even for casual hookups, 60% of women preferred men who earned the money over those who inherited it. And for romantic relationships, 90% of women in the study preferred men who earned the money. Only 5% would actually choose the guy who inherited the money. Women aren't attracted to money. They are attracted to earning capacity. This is a much more accurate term. Money is the outcome, but women go deeper and select the criteria that predict the outcome. Women seek safety and resourcefulness. Having or even making money isn't a guarantee of keeping it, so it might be a much safer bet to aim for the abilities that best predict the recreation of resources. If I take all the money from the lottery winner, it's very unlikely he will gain it back. If I take all the money from the startup guy, he can still rely on his cognitive ability and experience to recreate some wealth, and that's a way safer bet for women as opposed to someone who needs luck as a prior driver. Intelligence is a very good predictor of success, and economic success translates into resources. We know that comparative success in men is the single most powerful thing that makes a man more attractive than his peers. A higher status signals a better social standing and a stronger position to acquire more resources, ideally easier and faster than everyone else. But isn't that frustrating now? It's not even enough to have money. Now they also care about how you got access to it. Does it mean you are basically doomed as a man when you aren't creating something big? When you're not striving for high status in the social hierarchy? No, it doesn't. There are plenty of women who genuinely don't care too much about how much a man makes or whether he's pursuing a highly competitive career. However, assuming it's enough to just be a great guy is delusional as well. There's gotta be something about you that signals the woman masculine energy, something that intrigues her about you. A man with a hands-on mentality and the ability to fix things can be incredibly appealing to women. Someone who has something going for him, even if it's not a career. He can just have a job, but takes care of himself, is fit, healthy, and adventurous. Keep in mind, deep down, we want the best mating partner to increase the probability of having children with the best genetics possible. Doesn't sound romantic, I know, but biology rarely does. This should, however, help you to understand the bare minimum that is required to have a chance at competing on our modern dating and mating market. Take care of your hygiene no matter what. Part of that is a clean appearance, nice teeth, clear skin, well-groomed hands. Secondly, your body should signal health and fitness, no excessive body fat, decent but not crazy muscles, and a straight posture. A good physique has a high intrinsic value because it's something money cannot buy. And no, juice or plastic surgery don't count either. Add some social skills so you don't get easily lost when going out, interacting in groups, or attending any sort of event. Again, your ability to take a strong position in a social environment is a solid signal of social status, and that equals more power. More power equals better access to resources. So you see how well you can compensate and replace money in this chain. It's a social workaround and there's no need to use money to improve your chances. Having money without social skills and experience just makes you a target. And if you still think money is the quick fix, there is something in your toolkit that beats money every time. Imagine a guy with average looks. Nothing seems to be outstanding or spectacular about him. Yet he's a multimillionaire and a successful athlete. His physique is good, but you can't tell he's that big of a deal from the first sight. For this example, we assume this guy is completely unknown, no fame bonus. A guy like him gets to meet women from time to time. He doesn't really make use of his achievements, yet he's extremely successful with women. They're into him. The question is, if he's low-key, doesn't take her on expensive dates, and nothing hints at his success, how would the women even know he's rich or successful or any sort of big deal? Women are clearly attracted to him before they are aware of how good a deal as a man he is. So there's gotta be something else about him that triggers the attraction. And no, his IQ isn't written on his forehead either. Here's the answer. If you have put in the work for so many years in your career as an athlete, as a man, and you get to be successful along the way, what do you think that will do to you? You've overcome challenges, battled your mind so many times. Doing that over and over again will cause you to develop an elite level confidence. Despite childhood trauma, high self-confidence may single-handedly be the reason why you see lots of those loser guys getting women attracted to them in the first place. Eventually, that facade may crack, but the initial attraction is there. Among other factors, it's the confidence that overrides every other signal. The subconscious message women receive goes something like, he's so confident, there's gotta be something about him that justifies that. This again creates the illusion of higher status, a higher social value. The confidence appeals strongly to women's need for safety. This type of guy stands his ground, can protect her, isn't easily manipulated, and he has options, either other women or his very appealing life in general. And he has the ability to walk away. That's a package that is highly attractive to women. But in order to not only have the initial attraction but keep the woman, you have to bring more to the table. And it's not as obvious as it may seem. Money isn't equal to success. Money is financial success, and financial success isn't equal to sexual attraction. A broke guy can be more attractive than a multimillionaire, depending on what else he has to offer. And even an incredibly handsome guy can be less attractive than an average guy who is very desired by lots of women, maybe due to his status or his confidence that signals artificial status. If there is one takeaway from this video, it's you have to become well-rounded and stop living the illusion of money being the ultimate answer. The biggest concept to leverage is you.